It's a question of how much cash it's going to give you. That's the only reason. It's true if you're buying a farm. It's true if you're buying an apartment house. Any financial asset. Oil in the ground, you're laying out cash now to get more cash back later on. And the question is how much are you going to get? When are you going to get it? The only reason for making an investment and laying out money now is to get more money later on, right? That's what investing is all about.
It seems so simple when you hear the legendary Warren Buffett say that the point of investing is to make more money. And while tons of people have succeeded in growing their wealth with passive income, it still seems so elusive. In fact, passive income is actually the key to wealth building. So what can you do? Funnily enough, it actually is really simple. It's the dream of people like you and me to not have to work, and to be able to travel to a city like Paris or Tokyo, or go attend every single baseball or football game that your kid plays, instead of every other one, and finally take up that hobby that you've always wanted to. It all starts with this one thing. When you have $1,000 saved up, you want to take that money and make it work for you. The way you do this is through passive income. There are two main ways to do this. The first is to create a money-working machine like a business. For example, you can make a food stand, and over time, this can grow into a business where you could step away while it generates money for you. The other, more popular way is to put your money into money machines that are already working, meaning you literally have to do zero work while your money makes money for you. There's a big myth surrounding passive income, however. It's that you have to be wealthy and have a ton of money to make any use of this. But I'll show you in this video how that's totally inaccurate. In this video, you're going to find out the top 7 passive income cash flow assets according to Buffett that'll make you rich in no time. And it starts with this. Number 1, dividend investing.
The answer is I do believe in dividends in a great many situations, including many of the ones, companies in which we own stock.
When it comes to stocks, you're doing more than just purchasing shares and having them in your brokerage account. You're actually owning a tiny fragment of that business, and it's represented by the share of stock that you own. For instance, if you buy a share of Coca-Cola, you own a small portion of the company represented by the share. Some companies, like Coca-Cola, actually pay the shareholders, people like you, dividends, which are nothing other than the money given to you for owning the stock. You may be wondering, what's the catch? Well, there are 3 things companies do when they have excess profits. Either they save it for emergencies, invest in future growth through new products, services, or storefronts, or they pay their shareholders. Turns out there isn't a catch at all. What's paid to you is yours for you to keep. This money is money you can do whatever you want with. Most companies will pay their shareholders quarterly or every 3 months, but there are cases where yearly and monthly payouts happen as well. Let's look at a few examples to show you how it works with $1,000. The first example is Coca-Cola, which has a current annual dividend rate of 2.99%. That means if you invested $1,000, you'd make about $29.9 by the end of the year. The second is Citigroup, with a dividend rate of 4.46%. This would give you a return of $44.60 at the end of the year. The last is Vitesse Energy, which has a dividend rate of 8.96%, which would give you a return of $89.60. You may feel like these numbers are super small and meaningless, but think about this. Sure, it won't make you a millionaire overnight, but what's better? Wasting this money for nothing useful, or having $1,000 give you back money for literally doing nothing? The thing is that while this money isn't life-changing, it's the foundation for building wealth. And the more money you put into this passive income, the more you'll make at the end, even reaching for $1,000 or even more dollars every month. Number 2, index funds.
Pointed out that if you'd put $10,000 in an index fund that reinvested dividends, and I paused for a moment to let the audience try and guess how much it amount to, and it would come to $51 million now.
That's pretty crazy, right? Imagine becoming a millionaire by putting your money in an index fund and doing nothing with it. It's amazing to think that you could become so rich, like Warren Buffett said, just by living your life. Turns out, it's easier than ever to find a handful of amazing low-cost index funds that can generate amazing returns for you if you just hold on to them and keep investing. Let's have a look. The first is VOO, which is an index fund that represents the general market. It's a basket of the top 500 companies in the USA. From its creation in 2010, it's grown a total of 387.14% and has a current dividend yield of 1.58%. With $1,000, you'd make $15.80 at the end of the year, which is pretty good. The second is VNQ, which focuses primarily on REITs. And if you don't know what that is, keep watching because we'll get into it later in the video. The dividend yield is currently 4.23%, meaning that $1,000 would generate $42.3 at the end of the year. Lastly, there's VYM, which focuses primarily on high dividend-paying stocks. As of right now, it has a dividend yield of 3.2%, which would generate $32 from $1,000 at the end of the year. These are not life-changing numbers, but what's easier than throwing your money in funds and forgetting about them while your money grows? If you're uncertain, just remember this Warren Buffett quote: "If you can't find a way to make money while you sleep, you are going to work until you die." Number 3. REITs.
They think that because you can trade, you should trade. You buy a farm, you buy an apartment house, you can't resell it.
It's biologically hard for people to sit still and do nothing. While this may be useful for work, it backfires hugely when it comes to passive investing, especially for things like REITs or real estate investment trusts. It's amazing, but sitting still is what allowed Warren Buffett to get rich. While these investment vehicles are directly tied to real estate, there are some fundamental differences. This prompts me to say something really important. Real estate, as you likely know, is when you buy a home and rent it out to tenants. This can make you some amazing passive income, but with a few downsides. Firstly, you need a lot more than $1,000 to start. And secondly, you have to deal with tenants, which can be very stressful and not passive. So how do REITs fit into all of this? REITs allow you to forget about having large capital, and you don't have to deal with tenants. Instead, you invest in companies that invest in real estate, meaning that all the hard work is done for you, but you enjoy the profits. A fun fact is that these companies are actually required by law to pay 90% of their profits to their shareholders, meaning that all the money they make from rent will go to you as the shareholder. A few examples are OR Realty Income Corp. Currently, it pays 5% dividend yield. But the special thing about this company is that it's had 25 years of consecutive dividend increases. It would turn your $1,000 into $50 after a year. DEA is another one that has 7.8% yield. It would result in you having $78 from a year of $1,000 investment. You may be set on only looking for the highest dividend-paying REITs, but here's an important thing to note. The higher the dividends are, the riskier and more unstable they become. So, it's important to do proper research. For instance, a company could be sitting at $50 a share with a dividend of 5%. However, they may have really bad financials and be close to bankruptcy. This sparks people to sell off and the price drops to $15. They keep the high dividend of $5, which may make you think that it's a great opportunity. Sure, you may get some nice dividends, but you end up losing more money because if the company goes bankrupt, you essentially lose your shares, which results in a net loss. The other thing that could happen is they stop paying dividends and you're left with a dud stock. Fortunately, there is a really safe option that has one amazing benefit. Number 4. Municipal Bonds. Cities and states don't usually use the cash that they have to build roads, schools, transportation, or police systems. A lot of it is from tax, and even more is from loans. Funnily enough, it's not the city that loans, but people who loan to the city. This is done through bonds. Essentially, you loan a city money and they pay you back that money with interest over a fixed period of time. The minimum amount required is usually $1,000, which is a great way to get started with this passive income method. Before I get into the dividend yield, I want to share something useful. Taxes aren't something anyone likes to pay, right? You work hard, and the harder you work, the more money you make, the more you're taxed. That's not fair, right? Well, municipal bond payments are tax-free. That means any money that's generated from them, you don't have to pay taxes on. While this isn't a super huge deal with $1,000, it can make a massive difference when you eventually become wealthy. The catch is that you need to live in the city that you own the bond in to avoid these taxes. For example, if you buy FNYQX, which is the New York State bond, and you live in New York, then with the current dividend yield at 2.73%, you'd be taxed $0 on any income made from it. So, if you want to avoid taxes and generate passive income easily at the same time, this is the way to go. Number 5. Crowdfunding real estate. This is very similar to REITs with one difference. Instead of investing in a company, you skip the middleman and invest in a fund that has a direct exposure to the real estate itself. With crowdfunding, you need to find a third-party website like fundrise.com. The average return according to their website is about 8 to 12%, but there are some things to consider. Namely, this percentage is both appreciation of the assets and dividend payments. The great part is that you can invest $1,000 and have direct access to real estate instead of spending hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. Number 6. Peer-to-peer lending. Did you know that you can be a bank without being a bank? Impossible, you say? Let me show you how. Peer-to-peer lending is essentially skipping the bank to give loans. In other words, if you need $1,000, I could loan it to you and you'd pay it back to me with interest over a period of time. You can, of course, do this with a contract between you and someone else, but this method isn't as passive as you have to formulate a contract, keep track of the investment, and then deal with any other legal issues. The easier and better way is to use a platform like Lending Club. As of today, Lending Club boasts a return of 14% annually, but there are some things to consider. Firstly, they say to use an 8% margin of error to account for default payments and loaners paying off their loans early. Secondly, to remove 1% for the commission to keep the platform running. After the calculations, you can expect about a 5% return, meaning you'd make $50 by the end of the year with $1,000. This is an excellent option to diversify. Number 7. Rent out your home. Do you ever have times when you're not home for a weekend or even several weeks? Wouldn't it be great if you could utilize it somehow? I mean, even Warren Buffett likes to make the most of what he has, so why wouldn't you? Turns out, there is something you can do, and it's easier to do now than ever before. You can think about renting out your home or some rooms in your home while you're gone for extra passive income. For example, you can list your home on Airbnb if you know you're going away so that it can make some money for you while you enjoy a trip. Another option is to rent out a room for long-term rental if you don't mind living with other people. This can drastically reduce home prices, meaning you can earn passive income without changing anything. Funnily enough, you don't even need $1,000 since you already own the place. And what's really amazing is this. If you live in a good area, you can easily make $200 to $300 renting out your home a night. That's awesome, isn't it?